Good afternoon, everyone. We might make a start. And a very warm welcome to all of you and to those also listening online. Today's session is going to be recorded. Please get comfortable. We have lots to show you and lots to talk about, so if you need to wiggle around, that's absolutely fine as well. So we've got a full 2 hours, followed by some fantastic networking opportunities afterwards. My name is Dr. Caroline Rio, and I'm the Director of Games Engagement and Partnerships here at Griffith University, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 2025 Games Impact and Legacies Showcase. But before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us this afternoon. We acknowledge that our Brisbane and South Bank campuses are situated on the land of the Yuggera, Yuggera, Jaggera and Turrbal peoples, and in the spirit of collaboration and connection that underpins today's event, we acknowledge that First Peoples' deep reciprocal relationships are built on a foundation of respect for culture, identity and connection to country. So this showcase is a combination of a lot of hard work over the last 2 years, and it's also an opportunity to celebrate incredible partnerships, the research and the creativity that's emerging through our Games Impact and Legacy Catapult Fund. That's actually been in operation since 2024, the year of the Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games, just one short year ago. And as we look towards Milano Cortina and the Winter Games in 26, followed by LA in 2028, and of course Brisbane 2032, only a short 6.5 years away, we are reminded about how critical partnerships are to driving the outcomes that we are looking for in our communities, in our cities, and for our athletes, creating a prosperous future for all by realising local and global economic, social and environmental benefits. This is not only our collective goal, but it's also at the heart of the Olympic movement. So we're delighted to welcome so many of our industry, government and research partners here with us, many of whom are actively engaged in our Catapult projects. Together we're really excited to share the impact stories and innovations that your collaboration helps make possible. Today our purpose is to highlight what's helping shape an enduring legacy towards Brisbane 2032 and beyond. And I can guarantee that today you'll hear 3 words on rotation: partnerships, impact and legacy.
We have Associate Professor Nico Meissner from the Arts, Education and Law Group. Nico and his team are collaborating with Playside Studios and Village Roadshow to explore how virtual environments can extend the impact of the Games, creating immersive, educational and sustainable digital legacies that engage communities well beyond 2032. So please join me in welcoming Associate Professor Nico Meissner to share Virtual Games, Immersive Legacies for a Sustainable and Healthy Future.
Thank you, Sienna and Caroline and everyone else for coming. A couple of notes over here. So yeah, my name is Nico Meissner. I'm Deputy Director of Research for Griffith Film School, which you've seen on the screen. It's a small heritage-listed building just right around the corner on the campus. So we are quite in the middle of Brisbane. We are by enrollment the largest film school in Australia. So certainly in Queensland there are 1 or 2 other large film schools, with 1,000 students enrolled across animation, film, as well as games design. Around 30 lecturers and a large network of alumni and industry really that we're working with. And we are in the good fortune, because we are in the middle of the city, that we can do a lot of applied work that is research but also community engaged. For instance, a project that we ran with 10, 12 other universities around the globe that did a 24-hour kind of live streaming 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had Natalie Cook there, former Olympian, speaking about Brisbane 2032 Games, to kind of like a global audience, but really engaging with our staff and our students, which is great. But today I want to talk about virtual games, and I'm speaking kind of on behalf of the entire school, but mostly on behalf of the Experimental Games Lab. That is a group of about 10 researchers across this different disciplines, all working with games technology, screen technologies, and games technologies. And that's kind of the challenge that we're working with. We all know that there's, I guess, most developed countries, obesity is a challenge, overweight is a challenge that affects a lot of us in some form, at some point in our lives, creates a huge public cost. And while there are multiple reasons for that, nutrition is one, and physical activity is another. So we are looking at physical activity in this project. And depending on what statistics you look at, less than half of Australians meet the recommended amount of physical activity. Some other statistics say 20%, but let's go with just under half. The National Obesity Plan came up with a couple of larger goals and strategies that are not all applicable to us, but maybe 4 of them we feel are quite applicable to what we can provide. And all of them aim to make a difference at population level. One of the ideas is to create connected spaces that are accessible to communities, to engage in regular physical activity, to reduce barriers of access and cost, I guess, of participating in sport, to empower our communities to come up with their own solutions. So something that might work in Brisbane, might not work in Moreton Bay, or else. And to focus on priority groups. And those solutions exist, right? So we've all seen those. We might not have all engaged in those. Does anyone know how many of us, of those that are going to Parkland, use one of those machines? You know, or you do? You do. So my kids do as well for 5 minutes. Apparently that's a statistic, who knows, but apparently 4.8% of the people that go into a parkland would then end up using those machines, and quite often older generations, 45 plus, so my children, and plus. And there is the perception that maybe younger generations want something that is a bit more digital, a bit more connected, they're all grown up digitally native, and maybe they want to have solutions that allow them to compete with others, to track progress, and to use screens that are actually not so good for them, or for all of us, because we spend too much time in front of screens, but what if we can use them for physical activity? And let's see if that plays. Yeah. And those solutions are around. These are not our solutions, but we have all come across. There's no sound, so I can talk over. We have all seen those solutions, whether it's virtual reality that engages with some kind of physical activity or sports in a public setting or in a private setting. But this could also be more artistic solutions with projection mapping, sensors, screens of all sorts. In galleries or in other public spaces. While they can be poetic, they can of course also directly link to different all sorts of sports. So these are the technologies that we work with are interactive, are screen-based, and they are highly, they're capable to be employed in all sorts of, in private spaces, public spaces, indoors, outdoors. You can play different sports on it, you can do more. That's not a sport. You can do more puzzle games that engage us in physical activity without it being a real sport. But it could also be real sports that are somewhat gamified. And those technologies will develop over the next 6 years more and more. And we really want to be on the forefront of that development at the film school and at Griffith University. And these technologies also allow us to not just be about physical activity, but they can include cultural icons, they can include indigenous heritage, they can include communities that might not be present in Brisbane. They can connect us throughout Australia or the Pacific. So yeah, that's really what we are working with, and the capability of the team that I'm working with, including students, HDR students, and so on. And that's the question, I guess, that summarizes all of it. How can those technologies, those virtual immersive game technologies, interactive as well, how can they contribute to improved population level physical activity, especially around Brisbane 2032? So using a mega sporting event to activate the population, not just during the games, but beyond those games for the next, however long, 10 years. So from me as well, thanks to the Catapult team for providing the funds last year, the year before. So what we were able to do with it is establish more formally an industry consortium of mainly small enterprises that are all in Southeast Queensland, that are in the games industry, but there are also some of them also operating nationally. That's our team. That's the core team of the Extraordinary Games Lab, mostly with the university, but also the Town University, and we have a university partner in the Netherlands, Breda University, that do similar things to us. So our main task was establishing this team to, I guess, collect the capability of development that all takes a long time, and similarly we have undertaken a contextual review, literature review that just kind of tells the story of what we're trying to do. We know that there is public health concern around obesity. We know that physical activity at population level would benefit from an uplift. And we also know that mega sporting events can create a legacy for population level physical activity. Like London 2012, for instance, created more cycling lanes and now more cycling. So those kind of things that it's planned early on can be successful and create a long-lasting legacy. And we also know that digital games can have positive behavioral activation based on what we want to activate, in this sense, physical activities. Games like Pokemon Go get us out and about. Wii Fit allows us to play sports indoors. So we know that works. What we don't know is how to roll this out in a systematic way during an event like the Olympics. So we couldn't find any studies that explore that. That's what we would do. That's what we want to explore. So where are we at? What are the next steps? Where from here? On the 4th of December, we are running an Extraordinary Games conference at the film school that we run every year. What we do this year for the first time is a prototype showcase of very lo-fi solutions that we came up with. So none of them will be employed in Brisbane 2032. They are not developed enough, but they are all digital games. Some virtual reality, some not virtual reality, some for just individuals, some for groups. They're all game-based games that allow the public and the public event to be physically active. So we roll this out there. We have about 100 people come. They will, I guess, test those and tell us what works, what doesn't work, what is fun, what is not fun. And we would love some of you to join if you're free. On the day. So this link just gets you into a very simple form, if I'm allowed to plug of call to action, that basically just asks you whether you want some information about the showcase, the prototype showcase. Then we will invite you. It's only an hour on a Thursday around lunchtime, just across. We might start actually in this room and then go across to the film school to just experience it, those games, or just watch other people experience it. And we're really looking for partners that want to play, develop, and test things with us. So it's early days. The technologies will improve, will change over the next 6 years, and really partners that have a use case, a site maybe that we can activate. We believe the capabilities around in Southeast Queensland, a lot of very, very talented games designers, storytellers, digital storytellers, artists that are around, really talented community of students, of alumni, of graduates, and connecting those to partners that have similar concern or similar goal would be fantastic. So this link will invite you to the showcase, but also allows you to just share the email address with the reach out. That's all from me. Thanks very much.
Awesome, Nico. Wow, we've already seen some international interest sparking from this particular project, and I'm sure you all agree that there are many applications that can be applied to the work that Nico and his team are doing, and also opportunities for quite a broad range of industry engagement. Well, does anyone have any questions for Nico on the project at the moment?
Thanks, Nico. I just wanted to know if you've got particular activities or sports lined up that you're thinking would be particularly suitable to this, and then also how you might measure, energy output or the activity that's related to what is happening in the virtual games.
So theoretically, it could be any sport. I personally think going to be shortly. So marathon running might be a bit harder for the general population to engage in. What we will test on the day, a couple of shooter games like archery, and there's also just pistol shooting, fencing. We're trying to test volleyball. We're trying to test. So there are lots of one of our honors students just finished a dance game, and he wants to apply some of those technologies into martial arts. So there are all sorts of different applications for it here. And I forgot the second part of the question.
Just the activity levels or energy output, there will be measurements on that.
Not on the fort itself. It will just be fully just observational. We just don't have the capacity at the moment to really measure the impact. We'll study time on task. We'll have a look at time on task, repeat, engagement with the task. So what we try to understand is what allows people to engage, like raise some barriers of engagement. What do people come back to, so entertains them enough to create some kind of intrinsic motivation. That's probably the first thing. It's about discovery, but then also return engagement in those activities. It's less about, the energy and the calories burned for now. For us.
Anyone else?
It's about
I was wondering if my voice would carry the show. I'm thinking about with different councils, they're often putting together come and try days. And for some particular things, it's hard to do a come and try because you've got to have a paddle boat and a river, and it's interesting about the concept of the pre-come and try before you try it out. And I think there's a lot of kind of groups thinking about how you do come and try that it's inclusive, noting also it can cost you a truckload of money to try these things.
So these outdoor gyms are a useful metaphor for me because they're free to use for everyone. But how do you then create the link from that into organized sport or regular sport is quite interesting. But there is a lot. My kids are 10 and 13, so they do organized sport, and eventually, I guess they will stop doing organized sport, just like we all do as adults. But that link, I guess, from the outdoor gyms into the sports clubs, into then adult sports is quite interesting.
Great presentation, Nico, and I've signed up for your day, so I'll be one of your testers. I just wonder, there's people that go to the games and go to the stadiums and see the athletes compete, but the majority of people will probably experience the games either in their living room, or they'll go to what often councils put on around the host city is around live sites. So people go to parks or big, venues and kind of get together and experience the games together. I wonder if this type of technology would be something that could be run out through the live sites as a way of kind of activating those sites and making them a lot more kind of interactive and interesting.
Yeah, you mean the sports sites itself or the other sites?
The live sites that are off, away from the facilities, they're just maybe in a park or in a stadium somewhere that's not part of the Olympic, an Olympic venue as such.
Yeah, I feel that is the dream, like how could this place be a venue where I just, it's a bad example, just spring up and compete with Usain Bolt or whatever. So I do think it is about activating other spaces and having a population engage or discover those kind of sports in a fun way in every place. And Ruby and we also talked about, I mean, there could be other messaging involved in that. It could be about the environment, it could be about plants in Brisbane. So you don't always have to run against a human, you could run against a non-human thing. So games, animation, all these things allow you to do a lot of stuff from a storytelling point of view.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.